Here's what's coming up on WCNC Plus at 7 a.m.
Airstrikes continue this morning in Iran. Some American casualties already, and the president warning there could be more.
Combat operations continue at this time in full force.
We have every right, every legitimate right to defend ourselves.
The reaction from lawmakers, the Middle East, and folks right here in the Queen City.
The Black Political Caucus is filing a restraining order today, asking a judge to halt the controversial I-77 toll lane project. Coming up, why they're taking this legal step.
And we're in Columbia celebrating the life legacy of a civil rights icon, the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Now that we've turned the page to March, storm season is beginning.
We'll tell you the 5 biggest mistakes we're all making when it comes to severe weather. Those stories and much more live, local, and breaking news coming up at 7 a.m. on WCNC Plus.
If you take I-85 for that morning commute, this is what it looks like right now. This is out near Sam Wilson, starting to get a little busy, of course, but not seeing any big concerns there. Here's one thing you do want to know before you head out the door. It's this crash here where we do have some delays. Here's a picture of it. Outbound lane, Sugar Creek Road at North Tryon Street. We have a handful of other ongoing wrecks that I'll be covering for you on WCNC Plus. Chris.
Thanks a lot, Majestic. Well, I'm happy to say that it's only the next couple of days that are on the cooler side, and even tomorrow by the afternoon, it's right where we should be. So today is the only one that stands out from all the rest, and the 70s and 80s take over, and they don't stop over the next 10 days once we get to Wednesday. So if you loved yesterday, you're going to love the coming days. This is not feeling like March. Instead, it's actually feeling a lot more like late April and May.
It might be
We
Monday.
will take it.
It might be Monday, but I got my eyes on that weekend. 82 at 80. Well done.
That's right. Never too late to talk about the weekend. Well, folks, make sure that you join us streaming live on WCNC Plus. We'll be there starting at 7.
streaming live right now at 7 a.m. right here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Lisa Washington. We start things off with a check of your forecast on this Monday morning. Chris is standing by, and this is, I guess, the low point of the week.
Yep, we're just getting it over with. We already had our high temperature also around midnight, so that box is checked. Not much else to do today as far as the temperature categories, except just ride the 40s and the 50s, and then just wait on the 70s. We have a strong wind that's pushing out of the cooler direction out of the northeast right now. And officially yesterday, we started meteorological spring, where we keep our records for March, April, and May. That means the book of meteorological winter has closed. I went over those on Friday. Some of the ones that really stood out is this was one of the snowiest seasons just because of one day primarily. And we also hit the warmest temperature ever during the winter months. That was 83 degrees. That happened just about a couple of weeks ago. And our afternoon highs today right around 54, so not the actual high for the day that'll go in the record books. And as far as our rain chances go, I think it's really the early afternoon, but truly, I think a lot of this is just spit and sprinkles or maybe a very light rain shower that doesn't really add up too much. But then after today, we wait a few days, and then before you know it, we're back into the lower 80s, 81 on Friday. That is a cooler record for that day in climatology of 80 degrees. And then we have the mid 80s on Saturday and Sunday with highs in the lower 80s. So even though those days aren't technically records, they will be close enough for all three. We have rain to the west, but as I mentioned, I think a lot of it is going to struggle to hit the ground. I think especially north of I-40 is most of this rain is going to fall. And already we pushed a lot of that front down towards the south. Here's going to be that trough. So it's not going to be a big wet weather maker. Instead, this thing's going to stall out down towards the south. It's going to lock a lot of clouds closer to home, more rain the further north that you go. And really, it's just going to be more of a cloudy forecast with maybe a damper feel from time to time. And then eventually this is all going to break up and we should see some more sunshine for your election day. That's where you see a little bit of that sunshine starting to come on through. High temperatures in the upper 50s. Really no reason weather-wise not to get out to the polls. I'll be there getting my sticker. Isolated showers Monday night, and Tuesday, and then outside of that, we don't really have too much. It's really not until the following week that we're going to see something start to develop. So how much rain, as I mentioned? Really not that much. Most of these showing a trace. That means you see rain, but not really anything comes out of it, so not really helpful for our drought monitor. Luckily, we did have at least one decent wet day that at least keep things stable. Here's what our futurecast is going to look like, a little bit closer look. Could be some breaks in some brighter spots through the clouds through this morning, but I think most of the afternoon is going to be of the cloudy variety. Here's that rain chance that I think is the highest, really north of Charlotte, heading into the evening. So if I were to say there's a time that it's going to rain, it'll be during the evening, but I think really through the morning, afternoon, evening, and overnight, mainly seeing sprinkles with an on and off light rain shower. And then here's that Tuesday time frame that we see a lot more sunshine popping out during the middle of the afternoon. So our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast, this is the bottom, and then the top is coming before you know it. 60 degrees on Tuesday, 77 on Wednesday, 79 on Thursday. I already showed you the set of those 80s, but then watch. You would expect a big drop, right? Nope. Instead, we just kind of slide back down into the lower 70s. So the average is 60 degrees. Today is literally the only day, or at least the only afternoon, that's going to be below that threshold. Also, our average low is 38. The only day that we're close to that is tomorrow. After that, even our lows are extraordinarily warm, into the lower 60s to the mid 60s starting on Friday morning and beyond. As far as our springing forward time frame, that is going to return our sunset times to the 7 o'clock hour. But watch, rain and even a thunderstorm is a chance on a Monday, and then just plain old rain on Tuesday and Wednesday, but still rain in the lower 70s is much better than rain in the 50s than what we've been getting used to. All right, that's going to conclude weather. We're starting off WCNC Plus with our very first look at our morning commute with Majestic.
It's a Monday morning. Good morning, everyone. A couple of things that I want to get straight to. This is going to be our newest problem. Here's a picture of it. It's the outbound lanes out there at Statesville Ave at I-85. A new accident just happened within the last 5 minutes involving at least 2 different cars there. We do have some delays starting to build because of that crash. Again, Statesville Ave at I-85. We'll keep you up to date there, letting you know when it is completely cleared. Meanwhile, here's live camera coming in from I-77. That's out near Westinghouse. People started to wake up, start their day, so of course traffic is getting a little busier now. Out there near Steel Creek, this is where we do have an ongoing wreck. Right between the intersection of Westinghouse Boulevard and South Tryon Street, there are some minimal delays there, but nothing that's really going to slow you down. This new crash also out by the airport, so if you're heading to the airport, I don't don't really see any delays. You'll probably just notice it. It's out near Old Dowd Road, and then heading out west if you're making that morning commute in on I-85. Those delays are starting to build. No accidents to report there. And then finally, this one not cleared yet. I've been following it on WCNC this morning, and now we still have it. That's ongoing. It's out on Mount Holly Huntersville Road at Bellhaven Boulevard, so keep that one in mind, guys.
Majestic, thanks. We start with the latest on the U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on Iran. Right now, 3 American service members have been killed in Kuwait. That's after Operation Epic Fury against Iran began.
Now, 5 others seriously hurt, and President Donald Trump says there will likely be more U.S. casualties before this operation is over. All of this, as for the first time in 37 years, Iran is waking up without a supreme leader after the U.S. strike that launched this weekend killed the Ayatollah and about 40 top regime officials. Right now, missile fire is still raining down across the region, with Iran and its militias striking Israel and Arab states, even hitting the U.S. Embassy compound in Kuwait. Now let's go to live pictures right now over Beirut, Lebanon this morning, where citizens there have been caught in the crossfire. 31 people killed in an Israeli strike on an Iranian-backed group there, Hezbollah. Lebanon's president says the country wants no part of this war. Across the Middle East, more than 500 people have been killed so far, and that number expected to climb. Just a day after urging Iranians to take cover, Trump says he's been open to talks with Iran's new leaders. A top Iranian security official saying on social media, "We will not negotiate with the United States." Tomorrow, Congress returns and will get its very first briefing on the U.S. strikes.
A group of top national security leaders will brief both chambers. Some lawmakers now want a vote requiring the president to get congressional approval before any further action. Carolina lawmakers are weighing in following the deaths of those 3 U.S. service members. Former Governor Roy Cooper calling that news devastating, praising U.S. forces for targeting what he calls an oppressive regime, but warning Americans fear a long, costly war. While South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham backing the operation, saying Iran can no longer rain terror on the region and calling this a pivotal moment for U.S. security. Across the country, there have been mixed reaction to those deadly attacks, some taking to the streets to celebrate, with many Iranian Americans saying they are relieved that the Islamic regime is crumbling. On the other side, though, there have been protests on the U.S.'s involvement, including here in Charlotte. Demonstrators plan to continue their protests today in First Ward Park. Saturday, they made their way around uptown, voicing their opposition, saying they don't want a new war and do not want tax dollars funneled into military action.
This is their country that's being misused. It's their tax dollars that's been misused. And it may be their brothers and sisters and children and parents dying.
We stand against the trillion-dollar war machine that the United States has when we could be using that money to actually help Americans here at home.
Protesters also said they hope the rally sends a clear message to local and to national government. And coming up in our next half hour, you'll hear from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, along with the family trapped in Israel. Plus, with so many questions surrounding what comes next for the Iranian government, we're going to take a look at its history. In Durham County, 2 people are dead, including a North Carolina state trooper, after a head-on crash early Sunday morning. Highway Patrol says Master Trooper Stephen J. Perry was hit by a wrong-way driver on Route 147. He and the driver of the other car were killed. Trooper Perry was a member of the 148th Basic Patrol School, and he served Durham County for nearly 7 years. Highway Patrol says its thoughts and prayers are with the Perry family.
7:09 right now. In a matter of hours, a powerful political group taking legal action, trying to stop the highly debated I-77 toll lane project. WCNC Charlotte's Destiny Richards now live in West Charlotte, explaining this new legal action that they're taking, hoping to give some neighbors a little more say in the process. Destiny.
Yeah, that's right. They're likely thinking of the impact on McCrory Heights and Wesley Heights when it comes to this expansion. And they're wanting to halt the I-77 expansion due to what they call irreversible decisions that could be made. Now, the filing with community plaintiffs Shauna Bell, Douglas Jones, and Sean Langley seeks an immediate pause on the project, which would add toll lanes here on I-77 from uptown Charlotte to South Carolina. Now, the BPC says unresolved legal and community concerns like the impacts on historically black neighborhoods must be addressed, and moving forward without that review lacks transparency and accountability. If granted, a temporary restraining order would block NCDOT from advancing the project while those issues are considered. The filing is expected later this morning, followed by a press conference in Uptown at 10:30. Now, NCDOT says it has final authority on this project and it's defending the planning process. However, if a judge does approve this temporary restraining order, it would halt all progress, at least for now. Live in West Charlotte, I'm Desi Richards, WCNC Charlotte.
A reminder, folks, Election Day is tomorrow, and a few quick reminders. Polls open at 6:30. Make sure you go to your assigned polling precinct. Bring your photo ID, whether it's a driver's license, passport, voter ID, any of that counts. And you can watch our special Flashpoint primary preview with Julie Kay and myself tonight, 9 p.m. on WCNC Plus. And then tomorrow, tune in for our special election night coverage starting at 4 o'clock at WCNC Plus. We will have live results all night long, plus expert analysis. WCNC Plus is a free download to your favorite streaming device.
This morning, Reverend Jesse Jackson will lie in state in his home state of South Carolina. The civil rights icon will be remembered at the State House in Columbia. You're taking a look now at some video of mourners viewing his body. This was at the Rainbow Push headquarters in Chicago last week. That's the organization that Jackson led for many years. After a small private ceremony at the State House, visitation will open to the public this morning at 11:30. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane spoke exclusively with members of Jackson's family ahead of today's services. He will join us live from the State House coming up in our next half hour. A deadly mass shooting rocks Austin, Texas, in the entertainment district there, leaving 2 people dead. What investigators with the FBI are saying about possible terrorism as we are learning some new details. In the escalating fallout from the U.S. and Israeli airstrikes against Iran, the Iranians are retaliating, hitting Israel and U.S. military bases across the region. Military officials confirm there have been American fatalities. NBC's Alice Barr has details from Washington.
This morning, growing violence in the Middle East, with Israel and Iranian-backed Hezbollah fighters in Lebanon exchanging fire, following this weekend's U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran.
Mr. President, who do you want to meet Iran?
President Trump is back in Washington, lawmakers returning tomorrow for the classified briefings many are pressing for.
Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved.
Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed in the Saturday strikes, and now two sources briefed on the matter tell NBC News the attacks were timed based on intelligence. Khamenei would be at a meeting with senior leaders. President Trump told NBC News in a phone interview many others in Iranian leadership were killed. And 3 American service members are confirmed killed in combat. U.S. officials tell NBC News they were part of an Army unit based in Kuwait. 5 others were seriously wounded.
We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more before it ends.
The president also told NBC News he decided to act because Iran was unwilling to say they would not have a nuclear weapon following weeks of negotiations. Reaction from Capitol Hill largely split on party lines.
I think the president has started a war of choice. There was no imminent threat to the United States.
The largest state sponsor of terrorism, Iran, is close to collapsing.
Protests and praise in this country as Iranian Americans hope for freedom, while anti-war demonstrators fear a spreading conflict. Lawmakers are expected to vote this week on a war powers resolution that would require President Trump to get approval from Congress before taking any further military action. Democrats expect some Republicans to join them, acknowledging it would be a close vote that they say would send an enormous message. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
7:17 right now. In Austin, Texas, a gunman opened fire in the city's entertainment district early Sunday, killing 2 people, injuring 14 others. The gunman was shot and killed by police. Law enforcement officials tell NBC News the gunman was wearing a sweatshirt that said "Property of Allah" over a shirt with an Iranian flag theme. The FBI says it's investigating the shooting could be an act of terrorism, but cautions it's still very early in that investigation. Police in Homewood, Alabama, investigating a shooting at a hospital. Police responded to a hospital there around Sunday night for possible shots fired. Officers arrived at the scene to find a woman and man both dead from those gunshot wounds. Based on preliminary investigation by police detectives, the shooting is apparent murder-suicide. That's still under investigation. Well, it's now been 1 month since the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. A Bring Her Home banner has been on display outside the NBC Tucson station since her disappearance.
That's right, and many people have been leaving well wishes and prayers on that banner as a symbol of community solidarity. In fact, folks there decided to add their messages, sharing what they want the Guthrie family to remember going forward.
We're behind her, and we're sorry for what's going on, and it's, it's shocking, scary, and we pray. It's been a long time, but we're still praying for her.
Authorities have yet to identify a suspect in this case. The county sheriff's office there confirms this is still an active investigation.
7:19 on WCNC Plus. Live pictures right now. This is I-85 near Cox Road. Here's a look at your morning commute as you're heading out the door. Majestic standing by. She's got a few updates for you coming your way in just a few minutes.
Everywhere you look, you're looking at mainly a cloudy sky. Now, there's some brighter spots. You can still have an overcast sky. It can still be bright from spot to spot. That's what we're actually seeing in several locations, like High Brighton Mountain. Look at that luminescence happening on top of the mountaintop. And actually, if you go up here on top of Beach Mountain, where temperatures are 43 degrees, believe it or not, so that's how warm it is. So really, the ski sneezing is sneezing. Where am I coming from that? I'm going to talk about allergies coming up, but the ski season is in jeopardy because of those temperatures reaching 80 degrees here in Charlotte. That means 60s are likely up here, and the snow doesn't like that temperature. So all in all, really, wherever you look, you're going to be dealing with more of an overcast sky. But as I mentioned, you could have a brighter, whiter sky from some time, and even some breaks in the clouds here and there. But definitely an overcast day. 46 right now, feels like 39. That's the main deal. It is a super windy day, so we're going to have some wind gusts on and off to 20 to 25 today out of that cooler direction. So we will warm back up to the 50s for the afternoon. We already technically hit our high, though, at 61 degrees. What's interesting, if you look at the next couple of days on paper, say people are looking back, they're like, oh, these are 2 average days for the 2nd and 3rd day of March, even though, just letting you know, today will not feel like it's average. However, the lows are definitely at least above average. But this is what we're looking forward to. We just hit 77. We've now gotten a taste. We got a fever for this spring-like weather, and temperatures should be in the upper 70s come Wednesday and Thursday. But look at that, the lower 80s, and even holding on to the 70s the following Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That brings us through 11 days of March. Meanwhile, our lows are going to be great. I'm not sure about you, but there's just something about starting off the day in the 60s with highs in the upper 70s to the lower 80s, and it's not super humid. That is near perfection, my friends. So yeah, you might be starting off each day without a heavier jacket. That is going to be absolutely lovely. As far as the rain chances, we have spotty showers over the next couple of days, and then staying dry until the following Monday. Okay, that concludes your 10-day forecast. Let's get right over to Majestic to see if anything is bothering us on our commute.
All right, let's do it. Good morning, everyone. We still have lots going on this morning. 7:23 right now. This is a look at what I-85 looks like out near Sam Wilson. Not too bad. Switching it over to my map, though. Let's get straight to one of our newest accidents. It is going to be on I-77. This time, northbound lanes being impacted right there at John Belk Freeway. We're seeing impacts specifically at exit 9B. It's backed up to Clanton Road. That's exit 7. So again, mainly those northbound lanes being impacted because of that crash. Once we're heading to the south just a bit, this has been ongoing for over 30 minutes. Westinghouse Boulevard at South Tryon Street, we're seeing delays coming in all directions. Heading up to the north, this is a crash that happened out by the airport. Not seeing real impacts from it, but if you are heading to the airport this morning, you'll probably still notice it because it's not quite cleared. And then I-85, those inbound lanes starting to just move slowly. No accidents, just more people heading towards Uptown. Guys.
Majestic things, 7:24 now. We need to take a quick break. This is a live look of Uptown on this Monday morning. A little cloudy right now, but things are going to be improving, as you heard Chris say, later in the week. We're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back.
Hey, good morning. 46 degrees. That's not too bad for the beginning of March. Feels like 39. It's going to be a breezy day with gusts up to 20 miles per hour to 25. And you can see that flag whipping in the breeze. We already hit our high 61 for around midnight. Well, we're going to be back to the lower to the mid 50s for the afternoon with an on and off light rain shower. But most of the day, I think, is going to trend dry. We'll keep isolated rain chances around today, tonight, and heading into tomorrow. And then by the afternoon, we should be good to go. Our Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast has some great news, my friends. We're back to 60 degrees with some evolving sunshine by the afternoon. Then we have the upper 70s on Wednesday and Thursday, the lower 80s. That's right, as we're springing forward this weekend. And we even hold on to the 70s with increased rain chance, even a thunderstorm chance heading into next week. Enjoy the next 10 days. All right, Majestic, what do people need to know?
Good morning, everyone. We are following an accident this morning. This could be on I-77, mile marker 9. You can see on your TV screen a couple of police officers there, where we do know at least one lane is going to be closed because of this ongoing crash involving at least 2 cars. Now, I'm following this for you this morning on WCNC Plus, but this is the one thing you need to know before you go. Again, I-77 northbound, getting on to John Belk. That's exactly where that crash is.
Thanks for streaming live on WCNC Plus at 7:30. I'm Lisa Washington.
And I'm Ben Thompson. First up, a look at your weather impact forecast as you start your work week. And it's not starting as well as it ended yesterday, but it's going to redeem itself later.
Yeah, you know what? You can get through some rough times if you know there's good news or light at the end of the tunnel, and that's exactly what we're going to have. Literal light and literal good news. Here is what it looks like today, though. Not great. This is a case of the Mondays. Literally, definition of case of the Mondays, because you had a sensational Sunday, and all of a sudden now it's much cooler, it's windy, it's cloudy, and temperatures have been in the 40s and the 50s. 46 degrees, that's our low so far of the day. I do think that we revisit this number right around midnight. Winds will be on and off, gusting at 20 to 25, so real feel at times feeling like the 20s like it is now. This flag, I'm going to keep an eye on these because this is really just showing the testament of how windy it is today. And then by tomorrow, we're even going to see a nice little shift with winds out of the south, and that begins our warm up. For right now, we have a Carolina winter alert because during the dead of winter, we really average the lower 50s. Of course, it can be much colder as we witnessed many times in January. But when you have the 40s and 50s, that's pretty dang winter-like, at least here in the Carolinas, especially for the back end of winter, which, by the way, winter record keeping for us is December, January, and February. March officially starts our meteorological spring, and we're going to see temperatures spring in a hurry. So the first day of March started at 77. Really, we're dealing with highs and above average lows the next couple of days, but today and tomorrow really are the only ones that separate themselves from the warmer rest. 42 degrees tomorrow, some of us falling down to the upper 30s. It will say that we will still have some moisture around, so I think some of the mountaintops could have a little bit of icing, but really not a big deal here. And then going forward, look at this, back to the mid 50s on Thursday and the lower 60s for multiple days in a row. And at that point, we're going to have some pretty epic highs as well. Next best rain chances is not really a great one. I would really say next Monday. So not this Monday, 7 days from now looks to be a better chance of what we have right now. Isolated showers Monday night, heading into Tuesday, and not a lot of rain is going to come from this. So here's what it looks like on our futurecast. Let me get myself out of the way. I think there could be a brighter spot or two for this morning, but just call it a cloudy day and hope it gets brighter at times. That's the best way to kind of go about it, and just say it's case of the Mondays, no big deal. If it gets better, then so be it. But as far as the rain chances go, I think you see sprinkles on and off throughout the day. Maybe you need the mist setting on the windshield wipers, but the best chance for rain that I'm seeing is north of Charlotte. But notice a lot of this is fizzling out. I think most of the energy is well off towards the north. This is not a big deal for us. Heading into your Tuesday, you could start off the polls with a couple of sprinkles, but then things start to get much better throughout the day. I'm super bummed about this, though. We have a lunar eclipse. That's a blood moon, and we're going to be cloudy for it. So there's a good chance, most likely, you're not going to see it. And that's officially a 58-minute show. I love these. It's right around when the sun is rising up. So some of us would actually be up for this, but it does not look good, my friends, to see this. So, yep, we're going to have to wait for the next lunar eclipse. Our 7-day forecast, meanwhile, pointing in the right direction, upper 70s and lower 80s. Take over Wednesday and beyond. Enjoy it. This is a wonderful trend, feeling more like May compared to March. All right, well, this is right around the time that traffic really starts to increase. Let's see if it is following that script.
Yep, that's exactly right. As we are looking at I-77, we have an accident. It's going to actually be on I-77, still northbound, to get on to John Belk. There's an accident there. We don't have a great camera showing you the actual crash. It's just kind of glitching out, but I just want to focus on the impacts because that's really is what is going to matter for your morning commute. This is going to be I-77, mile marker 8, so that's out near Remount. We're seeing slow-moving traffic. It's not completely stopped, but that accident surely is going to slow you down a few minutes. Here it is again, I-77 northbound at John Belk Freeway. It is backed up to about Clanton, so we're seeing just orange, meaning that those cars are moving rather slowly, and that is verifying. That's what we're seeing on our live camera. Rain showers still well to the north and to the west of us. One current crash, though, is right here. It's on Westinghouse Boulevard at South Tryon Street, especially those northbound lanes being impacted there. This is that airport crash, not seeing significant delays. And then again, if you're coming in from Gaston County, good morning to you. No crashes to report on I-85 out this direction. We'll have another check on everything else coming up here soon.
Majestic, thanks. And now to a developing story in the Middle East. The U.S. military says 3 American F-15 fighter jets were mistakenly shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses as Iran attacked the country. You see the post there from U.S. Central Command. They say this strike included Iranian aircraft, missiles, and drones. The first time Iran's combat fleet has been engaged in the war. All 6 crew members ejected safely, and they are stable.
Closer to home, the U.S. Northern Command says all military bases will have heightened security measures until further notice. That includes Fort Bragg and Camp Lejeune. Camp Lejeune says they have random vehicle checks and that Trusted Traveler program is now suspended. A North Carolina family currently stuck in Israel and can't get out because most flights in the region are canceled. Chris Elliott and his daughter, 17-year-old Riley, arrived in Israel Wednesday traveling from Lexington with a church group. Riley told her mom that they were ordered to take shelter early Saturday morning. Chris shared their conditions inside a bunker. Take a listen.
We just had an alarm. The alarm told us to rush out of the room, go to the bunker. You can hear the Iron Dome shooting out and intercepting rockets as we speak right now. It's very scary. We're okay physically, but we don't know what we're going to do to get out of here.
Scary. No word yet on what their next steps might be.
7:36 now. Today, Reverend Jesse Jackson will lie in state in his home state of South Carolina. The civil rights icon will be honored at the State House in Columbia. And that is where we find WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane this morning. He spoke exclusively with members of the Jackson family about the late Reverend's life and legacy. Richard.
Good morning. How are you? Good morning to you, Lisa. Good morning, Ben. Good Monday morning, everyone there on the Plus watching us. As you can see, some of the folks making their way to the Capitol, where Reverend Jackson will lay in state in just a few hours. There'll be a procession here from the funeral home, and he will lay in state this morning from 11 o'clock till about 4 o'clock. Then there'll be a service here in South Carolina, in Columbia, at the Brooklyn Baptist Church this evening, all to honor his life and his legacy. Yesterday, family members started assembling around 3 o'clock. His actual children and his wife, who actually got sick and had to go back home. We can tell you that they spent some time just reflecting, hugging, and loving on each other. We had an opportunity to spend some time with them as well. We spoke to a couple of his cousins about what he meant to them, what he means to them still, and what he means to this country. Take a listen.
He did a lot of significant things that a lot of public don't know or aware about, and a lot of things a lot of president cannot do. Because he's from the grassroots. He's from those people that needed help, that didn't know no better. So his commitment to that made all these things possible for him to do what he did.
Always warm and kind and very family oriented. He has there's a lot of us. I mean, we have California family from his father's side of the family. There's quite a few of us. So, and we all loved him and respected him. We're very proud of him and all that he contributed to this here United States of these Americans.
And they all shared different stories about what he meant to them personally. And of course, what they said was most important was what he meant to this country as a whole, and that they were happy to have him as a member of their family. Many of them plan to go to Chicago at the end of the week. Some say they will not. This will be the chance for the main family from the Carolinas to get together and pay tribute to his life and his legacy. We're in Columbia. This is Richard Devane. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
Richard, thanks. Morning commuters in Gastonia, watch out for a sinkhole so big it swallowed an entire truck. Take a look at this. This is the damage left behind at Airline Avenue and Brown Street Saturday. You can barely even make out that pickup. City leaders, the driver's okay, got stuck, but got out okay. The truck was removed as well. Of course, you're being asked to avoid that area for the time being, for good reason. 7:39 right now. The Middle East on edge after new attacks and a warning from Iran's leadership. What happens next as that conflict widens? 7:41 right now on WCNC Plus. The U.S. and Israel's war with Iran enters now day 3, with the conflict already spreading across the region. Israel has vowed more strikes on Lebanon as Hezbollah claims it hit an Israeli base in the response to the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Explosions have been reported across the Middle East as Iran's leadership says it will not negotiate with the U.S., raising questions about how long this conflict could last. Here's Reed Binion.
We have to see day by day what emerges.
Where does this go? In many ways, it's not up to the president, nor is it up to Netanyahu. It's up to the Iranians.
U.S. political leaders and military experts weighing in on what may lie ahead in the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran.
Look, this fight is going to go on until they capitulate and return to the negotiating table under different terms.
With Iran's supreme leader, defense minister, and other key leaders dead, the regime on Sunday formed a provisional leadership council. Iranian state media also releasing footage showing rows of drones in underground tunnels and mounted on rocket launchers. In addition to those killed in Iran and Israel since the start of the war, there have been deaths and damage in locations across the Middle East as Iran launches strikes targeting almost all of its neighbors. Many of them are U.S. allied Gulf countries. And Americans killed. U.S. Central Command announced that 3 U.S. service members lost their lives in Kuwait Sunday morning. President Donald Trump paying tribute to the fallen service members the same day.
As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation.
The president also acknowledging there could be additional U.S. casualties.
Sadly, there will likely be more before it ends.
I'm Reed Binion reporting.
U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran are already pushing oil prices higher. Oil futures jumped in early trading, with U.S. crude rising to about $8 a barrel to about $75, and crude climbing up to about 82. Stock futures also fell sharply, with major indices down roughly 1%. Analysts warn gas prices could rise more than 25 cents a gallon as the conflict continues.
A new report shows the Producer Price Index rose more than expected in January. That index measures inflation at the wholesale level. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says it rose 0.5 percentage point. Now, that's higher than economists predicted and a slight uptick from December. The annual rate of inflation nudged down to 2.9% from 3%. Experts say tariffs could be driving up the cost of trade services. And paying with cash may now cost you a little more or a little less as that nationwide penny shortage continues after the U.S. Treasury stopped producing pennies last year. Some businesses are rounding cash purchases up or down to make up for the missing coins, and many are even digging into their own pockets to keep enough pennies on hand. At one coffee shop in Hawaii, there's a new sign reminding customers about the change, suggesting they pay with the exact amount or with a card.
It's a little difficult as a business. It's we either absorb that or we have to charge it out. Just bear with us. We're just trying to figure it out.
Well, many shoppers say they don't mind the small difference, but cash-only businesses say the shortage is creating some real challenges for them. Now, the push for the standardized rounding continues as stores and customers adjust to a world with fewer pennies. Might take us a while, but we'll get used to it.
How well do you know North Carolina? Let's start off with this one. Subject flowers. What is the North Carolina state flower? Is it the rose, B, butterfly weed, C, the Catawba rhododendron, or D, the flowering dogwood? The answer comes up after the break.
Well, now that we have turned the page to March, storm season is beginning.
Meteorologist Becca Birdsall breaks down day one of Severe Weather Preparedness Week here in North Carolina with a look at the most common mistakes we have when severe weather strikes.
A thunderstorm is any storm that produces lightning and thunder. In North Carolina, we average about 40 to 50 thunderstorm days each year, especially in the spring and summer. Most bring heavy rain and gusty winds. According to the National Weather Service, about 10% become severe. A severe thunderstorm can produce hail 1 inch or larger, winds 58 miles per hour or greater, or a tornado. Strong winds can snap tree limbs and turn patio furniture into dangerous projectiles, which leads to the 5 biggest mistakes North Carolinians make. First, waiting to see the tornado. Unlike open plain states like Oklahoma, our tornadoes are often rain-wrapped and hidden by trees. If you wait to see it, it might be too late. Second, relying only on outdoor sirens. They're meant to be heard outside. You need multiple ways to get warnings, especially at night. Third, ignoring severe thunderstorm warnings. In our state, straight-line winds often cause more damage than tornadoes. Fourth, staying in a manufactured home. These structures are highly vulnerable in both tornadoes and damaging wind events. And fifth, going outside to film it. Our storms can move 40 to 60 miles per hour at times. By the time you hear it, you may only have seconds to get to shelter. The safest move is having a plan before the warning is issued. From the Weather Impact Team, I'm meteorologist Becca Birdsall.
Thanks a lot, Becca. Yeah, and all through this week, we're going to have different educational pieces on all facets of weather. Tomorrow, I'm talking about hail. Majestic is talking about lightning on Thursday, and we're going to fill in all the gaps. But real quick, I kind of want to go through our SPC outlooks, and that's the Storm Prediction Center's outlooks. We kind of do things a little different here at WCNC. So what we do, instead of using terms like marginal and slight, we make it simple. When there's a low chance for isolated storms, that means that it's the lower threshold for a spin-up tornado and isolated wind damage. That still means that you can have winds over 60 miles per hour and spin-up tornadoes. It's once you get to a medium, that means that more of us are affected. That means these are more scattered storms, that we're going to have a lot more storm reports, that we have isolated tornadoes, widely scattered wind damage, and larger hail. Whenever you have the high, we're talking about a severe weather outbreak. That means numerous to widespread severe damage, a few tornadoes at this point. You have a lot of wind damage at this point, widespread hail. Last time I really can remember a big high impact that we had was there was the big hail event that happened a couple of years ago in Rock Hill. And whenever you have an extreme warning, that likely is a tornado outbreak. In 2016, one of the most historic years that we've ever had on record, that was an extreme outlook, violent tornadoes, excessive wind damage, and huge hail. As far as our severe thunderstorm warnings, and we're going to learn a little bit more about this on Wednesday, and whenever there's a base warning, because they've really go for this impact-based system, that means you can have a chance for a quarter-size hail and winds up to 58 miles per hour. Once it gets to considerable and destructive, we're even going to have different designations for our warnings. That's golf ball-sized hail, where most likely you're calling the insurance company. In baseball, not what you want to see. But we're going to learn a lot more about hail tomorrow with me, your guy. But I want to get to our fun trivia question today. Not severe weather, but we'll talk about flowers, because we're seeing a lot of flowers like the forsythias and the daffodils really starting to flower. But what is the North Carolina state flower? Is it A, rose, B, butterfly weed, C, catawba rhododendron, or D, flowering dogwood? If you guessed D, flowering dogwood, you are absolutely correct. We'll continue to do some fun Carolina trivia. That'll be the theme throughout this week, and I'll probably throw in some severe weather stats as well. Today's pollen count, I was looking at the big 5, and it looks like cedar, elm, pine, juniper, and alder are the big ones. Oftentimes, admittedly, on a Monday, we don't have the best data because a lot of the places that measure the specifics here locally are closed, so it's not till Tuesday, or at least when Brad is in a little bit later on. Even Majestic might have a better report for you around the noon hour, but it does look like the newest report that I did get from the Department of Natural Resources is that we still have a medium high threshold for tree pollen, and the pine situation is really starting to thrive and survive, so keep that in mind. Juniper and elm are also two really big ones that are coming into play here in the near term. So all in all, our pollen forecast is going to be on the rise, so really starting tomorrow, could be a little bit lower, but we're really going to be seeing this thing jump. All right, let's get right over to Majestic for your morning commute, see what's going on.
A handful of ongoing wrecks. You can see it as you're looking at my map here. Lots going on for our Monday morning commute. It's 7:52 right now. Let's get straight to a couple of important things. This right here is still not clear. It's going to be on I-77 northbound at John Belk Freeway. Specifically, as you're getting onto that ramp, we're seeing some delays all the way through Clanton. Meanwhile, this is I-77 a little closer to the Lake Norman area out towards Gilead. You can see especially those northbound lanes. They are going to be slow moving. We're seeing that there on my map as well. Once we pop those icons back up, still a lot of things that are ongoing. This one here is new. It's not an accident, but it is a stalled vehicle. North Tryon Street, southbound at Harris Road. The car's just in the middle of the road. Once we're heading to the south, this is Milton Road at East W.T. Harris Boulevard, where we do have those delays coming in, especially if you're coming in from the south. Then as we hop over towards the west, this is 485. It's the outer loop there specifically where we did have very slow moving traffic because of a crash. The crash just got cleared, but it is very slow. So just be ready and prepared to add in a couple of extra minutes for that Monday morning commute. Ben.
Well, we'd like to wish one of the most iconic children's book authors a happy birthday, Dr. Seuss. He created some of the most beloved stories in children's literature, from The Cat in the Hat to Green Eggs and Ham. His birthday celebrated nationwide as Read Across America Day, encouraging kids to discover the joy of reading. His legacy continues to spark imagination for new generations of young readers. Talk about staying power.
I mean,
in a rapidly changing world, what he wrote decades ago still entertains kids today.
It really does.
It's amazing.
Can't get enough of that.
Our live pictures right now over Uptown on your Monday morning. Not the nicest day shaping up, but we've got a few real gems. If you wait just a few days. Details coming up in just a few minutes.
Good morning, everybody. We're starting off in the 40s. That's right, the 40s. 54 degrees is going to be the high for the afternoon. We technically already did our high temperature thing right around midnight, but you can see that flag, how windy it's going to be. On and off gusts at 20 to 25 today. And there's a slight chance for a little bit of rain. I truly do not think that we're going to have a lot of rain that's going to come along with today. So our extended forecast looking really good. Tomorrow morning down to 42 degrees. That will be our chilliest low that we're going to have over the foreseeable future, at least over the next 10 days. Then we have the upper 40s, and then all of a sudden, look at these. These high temperatures are jumping and jiving. We have the upper 70s starting on Wednesday and Thursday, the lower 80s right near a record on Friday and Saturday. As we spring forward, boy, are we definitely dealing with a spring-like forecast in the upper 40s Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, Majestic, take it away.
It's a busy start to our Monday morning, which, by the way, I am covering every single one of these accidents on WCNC Plus until 9 o'clock this morning. A couple important ones for you to know, though. Let's get you straight to it. It's going to be I-77. Northbound lanes mainly being impacted by this. This is right at John Belk Freeway. We are seeing those delays all the way back towards Clanton. You can see the delays starting to build. Take it easy out there.
Streaming live right now at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning here on WCNC Plus. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Lisa Washington. Glad to have you along. We are anticipating a briefing this morning from the Pentagon, the latest on those strikes between the U.S. and Israeli on Iran. Again, we are hoping to hear from someone there at the Pentagon. We have learned this morning that a fourth U.S. service member has died in what is called Operation Epic Fury.
U.S. Central Command says that person was wounded in the initial attack and then died from their injuries. 4 others seriously hurt, and President Donald Trump says there will likely be more casualties before this operation is over. Again, standing by as you take a live look right now inside the Pentagon. We're expecting just momentarily somebody to come out, including top Pentagon brass, including perhaps Secretary of the Pentagon of Defense, Pete Hegseth. As soon as that happens, we'll be sure to break back in with coverage and bring that to you live right here on WCNC Plus. In the meantime, let's get a check of your weather impact forecast on a Monday morning with Chris. And Chris, we've already seen the highest high of the day.
Yeah, and it's nice to get that over with. You know what? I have a lot to do today, so glad that that's done. But all joking aside, 61 was the high temperature as we crossed over to midnight. And 60 degrees, by the way, is where we should be for a typical high to start off March 1st, also for March 2nd. Well, if you look in the history books, like in the future, looking back at this day, it's going to look like an average day. But the one problem is when you hit it at midnight, during the afternoon when all of us are awake, it's actually going to be more in the 40s and the lower to the mid 50s, which is not where we should be. However, I'm showing you this graphic for a reason, not just to say that, hey, us meteorologists like to do things differently, just because it is easier to have it in 3-month chunks instead of saying, hey, is spring starting on the 19th, 20th, or 21st this year? This just makes it easier. But one thing I really want to point out is these yellow bars, 73, that is what we average for April 15th. For the 15th of May, we average 80 degrees. And I'm happy to say that we have 3 days that are in the 80s. So that means that we are feeling more like May compared to March. So just a different M-lettered month. Today's high is 54 for the afternoon. As I mentioned, it's complicated. I already did this at midnight, but this is really the main story. It's going to be a breezy one. You're going to notice that. So we will have some on and off wind chills, feeling much more wind chilly. So our 46 degree point that we're at right now actually feels more like 39. And then eventually we'll still keep the clouds around. Slight chance for a little bit of rain for this afternoon. Not a big wet weather maker. High temperatures in the lower to the mid 50s. And then going forward, we are going to have a 80 degrees highs heading into the weekend. Meanwhile, we have breaking news.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. We do want to get back to the Pentagon now where that briefing is getting underway. Let's listen in. This is Secretary of Defense there, Pete Hegseth.
Precise aerial operation in history. For 47 long years, the expansionist and Islamist regime in Tehran has waged a savage, one-sided war against America. They didn't always declare it openly, except for their constant chants of death to America. They did it through the blood of our people. Car bombs in Beirut, rocket attacks on our ships, murders at our embassies, roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan, funded and armed by Iranian Quds Force and IRGC killers. My generation of veterans carry the names of brothers who never came home, brothers butchered by Iranian-backed roadside bombs and well-armed militias, thousands of our own. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult. It took the 47th president, a fighter who always puts America first, to finally draw the line after 47 years of Iranian belligerence. He reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you. President Trump has also been very consistent. Crazy regimes like Iran, hell-bent on prophetic Islamist delusions, cannot have nuclear weapons. It's common sense. Many have said it, but it takes guts to actually enforce it, and our president has guts. Iran's stubborn and self-evident nuclear pursuits, their targeting of global shipping lanes, and their swelling arsenal of ballistic missiles and killer drones are no longer tolerable risks. Iran was building powerful missiles and drones to create a conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Let me say that again. A conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Our bases, our people, our allies, all in their crosshairs. Iran had a conventional gun to our head as they tried to lie their way to a nuclear bomb. It almost worked under Obama and his terrible deal, but not under this president. Turns out the regime who chanted death to America and death to Israel was gifted death from America and death from Israel. This is not a so-called regime change war, but the regime sure did change, and the world is better off for it. Today, in their desperation, the enemy is unmasked. As Iranian missiles and drones rain down indiscriminately on the hotels, airports, apartments, and other civilian targets of their neighbors. Cowardly terrorist tactics from a regime that for decades has trafficked in cowardly terrorist tactics, lies, death, and destruction to this day. The Iranian leadership has built nothing except proxies and missiles and drones and deeply buried nuclear factories and facilities. Peaceful nuclear ambitions do not need to be buried underneath mountains. Last June, Operation Midnight Hammer obliterated their nuclear program to rubble. Afterward, we told them plainly, that's it, now make a deal. They arrogantly refused. We said, rebuild it, and we'll stop you again, this time far worse. Well, President Trump, Secretary Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, they bent over backwards for real diplomacy, offering pathway after pathway to peace. I watched it. I was there. They tried over and over and over again earnest attempts at peace. The former regime had every chance to make a peaceful and sensible deal. But Tehran was not negotiating. They were stalling, buying time to reload their missile stockpiles and restart their nuclear ambitions. Their goal, hold us hostage, threatening to strike our forces. Well, President Trump doesn't play those games. And as Secretary Rubio said after the Maduro raid, if you don't know, now you know. President Trump puts America and Americans first. He doesn't hesitate, and neither do our troops. The mission of Operation Epic Fury is laser-focused. Destroy Iranian offensive missiles, destroy Iranian missile production, destroy their navy and other security infrastructure, and they will never have nuclear weapons. We're hitting them surgically, overwhelmingly, and unapologetically. With every passing day, our capabilities get stronger and Iran's get weaker. We set the terms of this war, from start to finish. Our ambitions are not utopian. They are realistic, scoped to our interests and the defense of our people and our allies. Speaking of people, we hope the Iranian people take advantage of this incredible opportunity. President Trump has been clear, now is your time. To Iranian security forces, choose wisely. President Trump has also been clear about your fate in either direction. To the media outlets and political left screaming endless wars, stop. This is not Iraq. This is not endless. I was there for both. Our generation knows better, and so does this president. He called the last 20 years of nation-building wars dumb, and he's right. This is the opposite. This operation is a clear, devastating, decisive mission. Destroy the missile threat, destroy the Navy, no nukes. Israel has clear missions as well, for which we are grateful. Capable partners, as we've said since the beginning, capable partners are good partners. Unlike so many of our traditional allies who wring their hands and clutch their pearls, hemming and hawing about the use of force. America, regardless of what so-called international institutions say, is unleashing the most lethal and precise air power campaign in history. B-2s, fighters, drones, missiles, and of course, classified effects. All on our terms, with maximum authorities. No stupid rules of engagement, no nation-building quagmire, no democracy-building exercise, no politically correct wars. We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives. As the president warned, an effort of this scope will include casualties. War is hell, and always will be. A grateful nation honors the 4 Americans we have lost thus far and those injured. The absolute best of America. May we prosecute the remainder of this operation in a manner that honors them. No apologies, no hesitation, epic fury for them and the thousands of Americans before them, taken too soon by Iranian radicals. Before I turn it over to General Kane for the operational update, let me speak straight to you, the Joint Force, our warriors on the front lines. This is your moment. This is the generational turning point America has waited for since 1979, and since the rudderless wars of hubris my generation, our generation, endured. Don't listen to the noise. Just stay focused. Our Commander-in-Chief is steady at the wheel. We face a determined enemy, but you are better. But we must prove it every single day. History doesn't care if we're tired, if we're scared, or if the fight feels big. It demands warriors who rise anyway. Peace through strength, the warrior ethos, lethality, unity of purpose, those are not slogans. They're the beating heart of what it means to wear the uniform, that uniform. You think clearly under fire, you act decisively in chaos, you uphold the Constitution, and you uphold our country without hesitation. We are not defenders anymore. We are warriors, trained to kill the enemy and break their will. History is watching. Be the force you swore an oath to be, focused, disciplined, lethal, and unbreakable. We will finish this on America First conditions of President Trump's choosing. Nobody else's, as it should be. And know this above all, President Trump and I have your back, always. Through fire, through criticism, through fake news, through everything. We unleash you because you are the best, most powerful, most lethal fighting force the world has ever seen. May Almighty God watch over you and his providential arms of protection extend over you. Godspeed, warriors, and keep going. General Kane, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, everyone. The purpose of my portion of the briefing today is to update you and the American people on the actions taken thus far. The briefing will discuss the preparation, the planning, setting the force, the early operations, and how we're assessing the progress thus far. So let's get started. On Saturday, 28 February, at 01:15 Eastern Standard Time, 9:45 a.m. local Tehran time, on the orders of the President of the United States, U.S. Central Command, under the command of United States Navy Admiral Brad Cooper, commenced Operation Epic Fury. As I said, I'm going to walk you through the initial phases of the operation, but first, I want to express my deep condolences and the condolences of the Joint Force to the Department of War personnel killed and wounded in actions thus far. As the Secretary said, they're heroes and represent the best of our nation has to offer. They're true examples of what selfless service means. Our deepest and heartfelt condolences are with their families, their friends, and their units. We grieve with you and we will never forget you. Additionally, I stand here before you today grateful for each service member, planner, logistician, operator across our joint force, for our Department of War civilians, our intelligence community teammates, our interagency teammates who continue to stand in harm's way alongside us. I am proud of all of you as you take the fight to the enemy, and we are the best in the world at integrating, period. I want to extend my personal gratitude to the dedicated commanders and senior enlisted leaders and the enlisted members of the Joint Force who are fighting this fight across the CENTCOM AOR. In addition to Admiral Cooper and Fleet Master Chief Compton, I want to highlight a few today. U.S. Army Central Command Commander Lieutenant General Pat Frank, who along with his team are fighting the counter-missile and counter-drone fight. United States Navy Central Command Commander Vice Admiral Kurt Renshaw and his team, who are engaged with the Iranian Navy and projecting American naval combat power from the seas. And United States Air Force Central Command Commander Lieutenant General Derek France and his leadership team, who are crushing Iranian targets from the air. I want to highlight the support to the CENTCOM fight from other combatant commands who are directly involved with this effort, to include U.S. Spacecom, U.S. Cybercom, and U.S. UCOM. I also want to specifically call out United States Transportation Command and U.S. STRATCOM for their contributions to this fight. We cannot project American combat power at the time and place of our choosing without both. And finally, I want to express how deeply thankful I am for the continued service and sacrifice of the entire Joint Force and their families. Their unwavering commitment and dedication are the cornerstones of this effort.
So let me start with a few details. First, to be clear, as the Secretary said, this is not a single overnight operation. The military objectives that CENTCOM and the Joint Force have been tasked with will take some time to achieve, and in some cases will be difficult and gritty work. We expect to take additional losses, and as always, we will work to minimize U.S. losses. But as the Secretary said, this is major combat operations. So let me talk about the preparation and the planning. On February 28th, the full strength of America's armed forces came together in a unified purpose against a capable and determined adversary. The United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, Coast Guard, and our reserve components integrated across our combatant commands and began coordinated operations with the Israeli armed forces of an unprecedented scale. As the Secretary laid out, our military objectives are clear. Our mission is to protect and defend ourselves and, together with our regional partners, prevent Iran from the ability to project power outside of its borders and be ready for follow-on actions as appropriate. Across every domain, land, air, sea, cyber, the U.S. Joint Force delivered synchronized and layered effects designed to disrupt, degrade, deny, and destroy Iran's ability to conduct and sustain combat operations. On the U.S. side, this marked the culmination of months and in some cases years of deliberate planning and refinement against this particular target set. From precision strikes against key military infrastructure to persistent intelligence and targeting integration to the close coordination of the components across vast distances, this operation again demonstrated America's reach, readiness, and professionalism, and that of our joint united force. It was historic not only in the operational scope, but in the level of joint integration displayed across every element of the joint force. And as I said earlier, this work is just beginning and will continue. So now to talk a little bit about setting the force and setting the theater. On the order of the Secretary of War over the last 30 days to reinforce deterrence and provide the President with credible options should action be required, the Joint Force began to systematically reposition assets and personnel across the region. These movements ensured that U.S. forces remained postured, protected, and ready to respond decisively for any emerging threat. This deployment included thousands of service members from all branches, hundreds of advanced fourth and fifth generation fighters, dozens of refueling tankers, the Lincoln and Ford Carrier Strike Group and their embarked air wings, sustained flow of munitions, fuel, supplies, all supported with command and control, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance network. And the flow of forces continues today. In fact, Admiral Cooper will receive additional forces even today. This rapid buildup of forces demonstrated the Joint Forces' ability to adapt and project power at the time and place of our nation's choosing. I want to highlight a couple specific cases for you. The Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, which many of you know was down in the Western Hemisphere, redeployed across the Atlantic to set the theater. The ship, her crew, their families, and the entire strike group took a deep breath and, as they always do, began planning to conduct combat operations. The integrated Reserve and National Guard forces have continued to demonstrate the value of America's reserve forces, including the Wisconsin Army National Guard operating in Kuwait and Iraq, and Air National Guard units from a variety of states to include Vermont and Virginia. In the case of the Vermont Air National Guard and the 158th Fighter Wing, they were mobilized for Operation Absolute Resolve and then were tasked to take their F-35As across the Atlantic instead of going home to be prepared to support this operation. The same is with our Air National Guard and Air Force Reserve Command tanker and mobility forces, who stepped right out of their civilian jobs to deploy and to protect the region. Lastly, I want to highlight the unsung heroes of warfare, our American logisticians and sustainment force. those who quietly work every day behind the scenes to project and sustain America's combat power. Our leaders from World War II were right when they said professionals do logistics. As regional tensions rose, the Joint Force elevated our force protection measures on the order of the Secretary and repositioned discreetly civilians and non-essential personnel designed to ensure the safety and security of our Joint Force. By the time operations began, only essential forces remained on our bases and in theater, all ready, capable to respond. So now let me move to H hour. At 3:38 p.m. on Friday, February 27th, the United States Central Command, through the Secretary of War, received the final go order from President Trump. The president directed, and I quote, "Operation Epic Fury is approved. No aborts. Good luck," close quote. In the region, every element of the Joint Force made their final preparations. Air defense batteries readied themselves, checking their systems to respond to Iranian attacks. Pilots and crews rehearsed their strike packages for the final time. Air crews began loading their final weapons, and 2 carrier strike groups began to move towards their launching points. Across the globe, our operations centers came alive in Tampa, Florida, here at the Pentagon, and of course forward in the Central Command AOR. As always, operational security was paramount as we sought to maintain and sustain the element of surprise. This operation was highly classified so that at H hour, the enemy would see one thing: speed, surprise, and violence of action. The first movers were U.S. Cybercom and U.S. Spacecom, layering non-kinetic effects, disrupting and degrading and blinding Iran's ability to see, communicate, and respond. At H hour, the beginning of major combat operations, 01:15 local Eastern Daylight Time, 9:45 local AM Tehran time, as dawn crept up across the Central Command AOR, the skies surged to life. More than 100 aircraft launched from land, sea, fighters, tankers, airborne early warning, electronic attack, bombers from the States, and unmanned platforms, forming a single synchronized wave. This was a daylight strike based on a trigger event conducted by the Israeli Defense Forces, enabled by the U.S. intelligence community. The first shooters at sea were Tomahawks unleashed by the United States Navy, closed in on Iranian naval forces, and began to conduct strikes across the southern flank in Iran. On the ground, forces fired precision standoff weapons, measured, deliberate, precise, and lethal. This was a massive, overwhelming attack across all domains of warfare, striking more than 1,000 targets in the first 24 hours. We are now roughly 57 hours into the operation. In the initial phase, CENTCOM's focus was systematic targeting of Iranians' command and control infrastructure, naval forces, ballistic missile sites, and intelligence infrastructure designed to daze and confuse them. Coordinated space and cyber operations effectively disrupted communications and sensor networks across the area of responsibility, leaving the adversary without the ability to see, coordinate, or respond effectively. The combined impact of these strikes, swift, precise, and overwhelming, has resulted in the establishment of local air superiority. This air superiority will not only enhance the protection of our forces, but also allow them to continue the work over Iran. Over the course of the last 2 days, the Joint Force has launched hundreds of missions from land and sea and delivered tens of thousands of pieces of ordnance. The effort continues to scale. This included American B-2 bombers, which again, similar to Midnight Hammer, flew a 37-hour round-trip sortie from the continental United States, dropping precision, penetrating munitions on Iranian underground facilities across the southern flank and slightly deeper. Additionally, Israel has separately executed hundreds of sorties against hundreds of targets. Beyond Air Force and Navy aircraft strike packages, coordinated salvos of precision standoff weapons from across the region have neutralized hundreds of pre-planned targets. As I mentioned earlier, in support of these kinetic operations, U.S. Cybercom and Spacecom have continuously layered effects to disrupt, disorient, and confuse the enemy. I will note that this operation had several combat firsts, which I'll allow at some point in the future Admiral Cooper to talk about since he owns the AOR. While we've prosecuted a relentless offensive campaign, our defense has been equally important. Across the theater, operations have remained steady and disciplined. Once again, our integrated air and missile defense network is performing exactly as it's intended. U.S. Patriot and THAAD batteries, along with ballistic missile defense-capable Navy destroyers, continue to coordinate and execute intercepts with precision and consistency. I wish that every American could hear the voice communications like I have as these joint operations centers remain calm, focused, and cool while executing under fire over and over again. Collectively, these systems have intercepted hundreds of ballistic missiles targeting U.S. forces, our partners, and regional stability. The threat from one-way attack UAVs has remained persistent. Our systems have proven effective in countering these platforms, engaging targets rapidly. Each intercept represents hundreds of hours of training, readiness, and technology all coming together to work as designed. We will remain vigilant in the counter UAV fight. And the defense of the region is not ours alone. As the threat grew, our partners surged in beside us. Air defense batteries in Qatar, the UAE, Kuwait, Jordan, and Saudi Arabia joined the fight, proof positive that years of training, trust, and hard-earned integration pay off. I am aware of the loss of 3 U.S. Air Force F-15Es overnight in the region. I am grateful for the safety of the crews, and we know that this was not from hostile enemy fire. As this matter's under investigation, I'll not comment further on this. Let me close. Operations will remain active across the theater and across the globe. The U.S. forces are postured not only to maintain pressure, but to respond and adapt as required. Operation Epic Fury stands as a reminder of what the United States military uniquely delivers: the ability to project power on a global scale with speed, surprise, precision, and overwhelming force when and where our nation requires it. What we've demonstrated over the past several days reflects years of investment in readiness, joint integration, and professionalism of the joint force. As major combat operations continue across CENTCOM, we remain engaged globally. America's joint force retains the credibility, capacity, and flexibility to respond to any contingency anywhere in the world at any time. To those who would test our resolve or threaten the United States, our allies, or our interests, understand clearly we can reach you, we can sustain the fight, and we can scale the fight, and we will prevail. To the American people, your joint force remains steady, frosty, calm, and focused. Your service members are trained, disciplined, and determined. We understand the risks of this mission and the weight of the responsibility that we carry. We also recognize that our families also shoulder the burden at home. You are a part of this too. I am proud today, as I am every day, to stand as a member of America's joint force. There is no mission too complex, no distance too great, and no adversary too determined for the men and women who wear our nation's uniform. We mourn our fallen, we honor their families, and we continue our mission with focus, unity, and strength. And now I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Right here. Go ahead.
Thank you for your time. What percentage of Iranian long-strike capabilities are still in the fight, and what is our exit strategy here, and when will it be deployed?
Well, they have long-range strike capabilities, which we are hyper-focused on. The brief we got just this morning, Admiral Cooper knows exactly and precisely what kind of threat matrix he's looking at, the way they might change their techniques, and how we adapt to that. So we're making sure the theater commander has absolutely everything he needs. I mean, one of the things the chairman mentioned is for months and months, even before we built up, we ensured that we had maximum defensive capabilities in theater to allow the president the decision space in the future. So even before this buildup in the last 30 days, we discreetly brought defensive assets in to make sure, understanding that there are Iranian capabilities. As far as time frame, I would never hang a time frame from our perspective. The commander-in-chief sets the op tempo and terms of this fight. As I said, it's on his terms. And we'll make sure that Admiral Cooper and his team have everything they need, not just to defend. I mean, the best defense is good offense. And so we're aggressively pushing into that airspace over that southern flank to ensure that we control it and we destroy anything that moves that would attempt to shoot us. Think of it as shooting the archer instead of the arrows. That's where we want to be. And we have the kind of exquisite intelligence to get over the top, find that and destroy it. It won't happen overnight. This is a big battle space with a lot of capabilities. That's part of the reason why it's such a threat to us. That's why I talk about conventional umbrella to blackmail nuclear ambitions. They were building up this conventional arsenal in order to ensure that no one would ever block them from their ability to get nuclear weapons. So we're very clear-eyed about the nature of this Iranian threat, and we're going to get after it. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the question. The only thing I'll add is that unlike an operation, a single operation like Midnight Hammer or Absolute Resolve, it'll take some time for us to conduct battle damage assessment, and the targeting cycle that CENTCOM will run will take those things into effect. Admiral Cooper will adjust his plan and fires accordingly to ensure that we're attriting that. He's focused on long-range strike capability coming out of the enemy, and that's a key and essential part of it.
Of the capabilities that still exist from the enemy front?
Yeah, that's what I mean when I say we're still doing BDA. Normally we'd be able to see a singular thing and we'd assess pretty quickly. He's doing offense and assessment simultaneously, so it'll take longer for us to assess than it would in a single operation.
Secretary Hegseth, thank you. Reagan Reese with the Daily Caller. 2 questions for you. The president said yesterday in his video message that we will leave Iran when we complete all of our objectives. What are our objectives? And can you share more information on how the soldiers who were killed were killed?
Well, I laid out the objectives, as did the chairman. They're completely nested. I mean, Iran has an ability to project power against us and our allies in ways that we can't tolerate. So whether that's ballistic missiles and drones, so offensive capabilities, effectively their Navy, which would attempt to set other terms and impose different costs, drone capabilities, which we laid out there. And ultimately, though, this tying it back to Midnight Hammer, the president has been willing to make a deal. You can't have a nuclear bomb. Radical Islamists can't have a nuclear bomb that they wield against the world. He gave them every single opportunity. Then we precisely took it away. And even then, after that, they didn't have that. They didn't come to the table with a willingness to give it away. So ultimately, those nuclear ambitions, which never ceased, are something that had to be addressed as well. So that's a discrete sense of what's being addressed here to ensure that they can't use that conventional umbrella to continue a pursuit of nuclear ambitions. And then as it pertains to the U.S. casualties, that particular incident was, you have air defenses and the lot's coming in and you hit most of it, and we absolutely do. We have incredible air defenders. Every once in a while you might have one, unfortunately we call it a squirter that makes its way through, and in that particular case it happened to hit a tactical operations center that was fortified, but these are powerful weapons. So we certainly will do, as I said, moments like that, as we remember them and we take care of them and take care of their families, only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we do this properly.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right here.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. I had 2 questions for you. First, are there currently any American boots on the ground in Iran?
No, but we're not going to go into the exercise of what we will or will not do. I think it's one of those fallacies for a long time that this department or presidents or others should tell the American people this, and our enemies, by the way, here's exactly what we'll do. Here's exactly how long we'll go. Here's exactly how far we'll go. Here's what we're willing to do and not do. It's foolishness. And so President Trump ensures that our enemies understand we'll go as far as we need to go to advance American interests. But we're not dumb about it. You don't have to roll 200,000 people in there and stay for 20 years. We've proven that you can achieve objectives that advance American interests without being foolish about it. Now, will we be bold about it? Are we willing to be decisive about it? Do we put months and months of planning into what kind of effects we want to achieve? Absolutely. But going forward, why in the world would we tell you, the enemy, anybody, what we will or will not do in pursuit of an objective? We fight to win. We fight to achieve the objectives the President of the United States has laid out, and we will do so unapologetically. Thank
Is there
you.
any significance to Israel carrying out the strike to kill the Ayatollah? And I wanted to know, what was your immediate reaction to finding out about his killing?
I think Israel did a great job in the conduct of that operation.
President Trump put a 4-week
Here you go,
timeline
right
on
here.
it. Are you
Please.
saying that's wrong?
Yeah, thank you. You mentioned during the briefing, General Kane, that there would be additional troops sent to the region. Could you say how many troops currently are involved in this operation and how many additional troops are planned to go in this next phase?
I don't want to talk specifics because that would tip the enemy off. We have more tactical aviation flowing into theater just based on the time it took to get it out there. I think we're just about where we want to be in terms of total combat capacity and total combat power for Admiral Cooper. One of the things, though, that a commander, he'll consistently assess the trajectory of the campaign. Is he on or off trajectory? And then make an ask of the joint force, which will then develop options for consideration by the Secretary and the President to either increase or in some cases decrease the amount of combat capability that we have over there.
I heard the question about 4 weeks. It's the typical NBC sort of gotcha type question. President Trump has all the latitude in the world to talk about how long it may or may not take. 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 6 weeks. It could move up. It could move back. We're going to execute at his command the objectives we've set out to achieve. And what he has shown an ability to do that other presidents can't quite seem to have the aperture to do, well, I mean, Joe Biden didn't even know what he was doing, is to look for opportunities and off-ramps and escalations for the United States that creates new opportunities to execute what we need on our own timeline. So you can play games about 4 weeks, 5 weeks. He has all the latitude, and I'm glad he does, because there's no better communicator than our president expressing those things.
Daily Mail.
I've been in meetings with the president for the last 2.5 days. We know exactly where his headspace is, and he will communicate as he should exactly what he would like, and we will follow those orders. And I think everything he said on that is right down the middle.
Chairman, did you
Absolutely.
have
Yes, right there. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Secretary. I left my hometown of Seuss in Iranian Kurdistan in 1996. Can you promise that I will be able to return home safely this year? And I have a following question too, please.
I appreciate the question. I'm not here to place guarantees on that, but I think the message the president has given has been clear to the people of Iran. This is your moment. The world was seized by these crowds and then seized by the reality of this regime killing tens of thousands of innocent protesters. So we saw the nature of the regime yet again exposed. We saw many of the Iranian people seek a change there. This is their moment to take advantage of it, for sure.
You served in Iraq and know that no American soldiers were killed in Kurdistan. The Kurdish people are very pro-American. Will you continue protect Kurdistan and Peshmerga as loyal ally of the United States? Why I'm asking this question? Because now Kurdistan is under attack by Iranian drones and by proxies in Iraq and on the region.
I think I can speak to allies generally in the region who we've been in constant communication with. We've been standing shoulder to shoulder with them, and we appreciate their capabilities. Absolutely. Yes, right here.
Hi, thank you. Cameron Arkin with the Daily Wire. My question is about some of the domestic threats, if any, regarding this right now. Have there been any concerns about Iranian sleeper cells and kind of what has the Trump administration been doing to kind of monitor these
Well,
threats?
across the interagency, in full coordination, of course, we're paying attention to any potentialities there. this is a former regime, a regime that seeks to export that ideology and try to sow terror. We're ready for that. We've seen these types of folks before, and the American people can rest assured that we're vigilant on that. Right here.
Secretary, thank you. Kind of a follow-up on that last question. There was just this, what appears to be a terrorist attack in Austin yesterday. How does that change the operation at all? What effect does that have? And
It doesn't change the operation at all, and I know the authorities are executing exactly the way they should.
Secretary Higseth, and one for Chairman Kane as well. I understand, to your point here, that you don't want to broadcast everything for our adversaries to hear, but the American people also want to know what they're sending their men and women to war for. Is there a concern of this spiraling into a longer war? And then one for the chairman when you're done.
Did you not hear my remarks? I mean, we're ensuring the mission gets accomplished, but we are very clear-eyed, as the president has been, unlike other presidents, about the foolish policies of the past that recklessly pulled us in to things that were not tethered to actual clear objectives. So we know, we have plans, we have generals, we have chairmen, we have commanders, CENTCOM commanders, Admiral Cooper, who's executing very deliberately to ensure outcomes that I laid out are accomplished. But we would never, in front of a press pool, lay out how long that may take. The mission for our warfighters, which is what matters to us, is very, very clear. And they're executing it right now violently.
And just for the chairman quickly, I have one for the chairman. You said this is not a one-night operation. It will take time to achieve the goals. What would be the goal line here for you?
I think the Secretary laid out the military objectives, and that's what we execute against, is the military objectives.
Last one right here.
Uranium is. Thank you, sir. As you've said, there are a large amount of U.S. service members that are in harm's way right now. What is your prayer for them?
First of all, my prayer for them is that I do pray for them. My wife prays for them. Our family prays for them. Our cabinet prays for them. None of this is done on a whim. Having been in their boots, having been in their shoes, having been in their flight suits, I know we think about them with every decision that we make and every recommendation that we make to the President of the United States. Those recommendations are made prayerfully. And when I pray every day for them and for this mission, I pray simply for the biblical wisdom to see what is right and the courage to do it. It's going to take courage to follow through on this. There's going to be a lot of noise. And we pray for that, and we hope all of you do as well. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Going to strike first.
You've been listening to the Secretary of Defense there, Pete Hegseth, as long with General Dan Cade, giving an update to the Pentagon about those airstrikes that happened over the weekend with the U.S. and Israeli forces attacking Iran there. Again, quite an extensive. They are laying out the objectives and the plan for this. Certainly we'll continue to cover that here on WCNC Plus as well as WCNC Charlotte.
A big headline so far, 4 Americans dead from this conflict, and the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of War, depending, promises this will not be a long, drawn-out war like we've seen in prior wars in the Middle East. Keep it right here. We've got an interview coming up after the break to give you a sense of how folks here in North Carolina, what your neighbors are saying about this.
9:48 now here in WCNC Plus. And earlier this hour, we heard from members of the Trump administration with the latest on those ongoing strikes against Iran.
Well, many people, many lawmakers divided on the president's actions over the weekend. Take a look here in North Carolina. A new Catawba College YouGov poll shows 63% of Republicans support U.S. military action in Iran, while 68% of Democrats do not support military action. Almost a total inverse there. Joining us now to talk about it, Catawba College political professor Michael Bitzer. We do want to talk to you about the primary day tomorrow, but put on your statistician hat first. What is your reaction to this poll? We should say it was taken in January, I believe, but it does give us a sense for how our neighbors feel about this conflict.
It certainly does. And we asked in January, at the time, there were massive demonstrations against the Iranian regime, and we asked about military strikes to support those particular protests. And overall, North Carolinians were against it, but it was fairly close in terms of the margin of error. But that partisan divide that you pointed out is kind of a classic dynamic that we are seeing play out nationally and here in North Carolina. And if you asked somebody who was an independent, not a partisan on initial identification, 50% of them were against it. So we're going to go into the field next week for our March survey to ask the same question again, now that we actually have military operations in the Middle East, and see what changes in terms of the dynamics.
It will be interesting to see those results, especially given the events over the past weekend. All right, so let's switch gears now and talk about the primary. Of course, the early voting ended over the weekend. Tomorrow is the actual primary. What are your thoughts on this? Of course, it outperformed early voting in 2022, even 2024 in the presidential primary. What are you thinking about this year's primary?
This one's off the charts. And so we're going to really have to wait and see who shows up tomorrow for Election Day. But if these are any indicators, if you look within the total numbers, it was a real reversal of what we thought would be happening. You know, we all believe that the more competitive U.S. Senate contest for the nomination was on the Republican side. We thought it was basically going to be a coronation of Roy Cooper on the Democratic side. That script has basically flipped, and there were much more Democratic ballots taken during the early voting period than Republicans, and also unaffiliateds who tend to migrate towards the more competitive primary actually pulled more Democratic primary ballots than Republican. So this may be an early indication of what we're seeing in terms of energy and enthusiasm on the Democratic side. Again, we've got to wait and see what the dynamics are like for tomorrow's vote, but these are very impressive numbers coming in terms of early ballots cast.
Can you glean something from that, or can that be explained? We've talked about in the past that blue wave that happens on election night, and it's all the early voters that voted early and they say we're Democrat, and then that changes everything. I mean, can you attribute some of that to just like sort of party preferences of whether you early vote or not?
Well, this we have to remember this is a primary election, so we're really dealing with two discrete battles going on. When you try to compare the two, there's a little bit of hesitancy in terms of extrapolating to the general election. But I look at these numbers and say, you know what, there is something going on with energy and enthusiasm on the Democratic side, at least here in North Carolina. And if that translates over the next 9 months, if that leads into November, then I think we can see the confirmation of what we are seeing in other dynamics, particularly special elections, Democrats overperforming, Republicans not performing as well. Now, here in North Carolina, Republicans have a built-in advantage when it comes to general elections. So Democrats have ground that they must make up in order to be competitive. But Roy Cooper has unlocked that box here in North Carolina to win as many times in Republican federal elections to be able to win as governor, for example. So I think this is going to be the real, kind of talk over the next 9 months after we get past Tuesday.
So you talked about the Senate race, of course, that's the big one that many people are looking at. Does Roy Cooper just glide through? Is this just another win for him that he checks off easily?
I don't want to make any predictions, but it feels like, certainly there haven't been the kind of candidates that would put up the challenge. They need name recognition. They need name ID across the state. They need funds and money to advertise. I haven't seen any of that kind of dynamic in any of the other Democratic candidates against Roy Cooper. So my expectation is that he will have a very good evening come tomorrow night. We'll just have to wait and see what the percentage is in terms of his vote gains.
Rarely, if ever, do you ever have a state Senate seat that is more exciting than a U.S. Senate seat. But you might just have one. And it's not a Charlotte race for our viewers, so you'd be forgiven if you don't know about it. But instead, it involves the Senate Majority Leader, Phil Berger, arguably the most powerful person in the state of North Carolina. And he is facing up what is a very significant challenger.
Very much so. In Rockingham County, where Phil Berger is based out of, that county's sheriff, Sam Page, is challenging Senator Berger. This is really a grudge match between these two gentlemen, and local politics is so dominant in this that all of us are basically going to be sitting on our couches, eating our popcorn and hitting refresh on that particular primary dynamic. A lot of this is based in Rockingham County, but the wild card is in Guilford County. Part of that district is in Guilford. And actually, there are more voters in Guilford than in Rockingham County in total. But we're seeing Rockingham County in the early votes well outperform Guilford. So this kind of dynamic is something that we're going to watch. This is indeed the most powerful Republican, as you noted, in the state for the past 15 years. This is a real challenge to see if he can hold on to power or if we have a new day in North Carolina politics.
And if he loses, what does that say about the state of politics here in North Carolina? And then what happens in Raleigh? I mean, he has an entire infrastructure there that operates under him.
It does, and I think the big question will be who is going to start jockeying for to be the next president pro tem, to be the leader of the state Senate for Republicans. I think that's going to be a very fascinating contest to kind of watch, and it could also have a play in terms of the dynamics of our state budget. Reminder: we don't have a new state budget; we're operating under the old one, and it's been at loggerheads between the House and the Senate in terms of the leadership priorities. If Phil Berger was to lose, does that change that dynamic and we get a new state budget where new leaders come to agreement over? We'll just have to kind of wait and see. There's still, several months to see this play out if he were to lose. But right now, no bets in terms of who's going to win between Berger and Page.
What else are you looking for tomorrow? What else has piqued your interest in this primary?
Well, I think certainly in Mecklenburg, the Cunningham race is going to be one to watch. That could be, the Democratic Party's version of what is going on with Berger and Page. I think there are a couple other, particularly congressional races across the state. The first, with its Republican primary, that is a lean Republican district now that it's been redistricted, but we'll have to watch and see what the national dynamics play out. And then in the fourth congressional district around Durham and the Triangle, there's a real competitive, what looks like Democratic primary going on there against an incumbent, against a progressive on that regard. The other one is out in the western part, the Democratic primary for the North Carolina 11th. The DCCC has thrown its support behind one of the candidates. We'll see if he can pull that off as well. So it's going to be a busy night yet again in North Carolina elections.
Always exciting. And to that point, in some of these races, because you've alluded to it before, we have sort of self-segregated ourselves and our communities as far as political ideas and things like that. In some of these races that you just mentioned, whoever wins the primary is more likely going to go straight ahead and win the general election because these districts are so heavily slanted, either Republican or Democrat.
Exactly. I mean, we are basically having the general election for a significant majority of all of these contests tomorrow. And because of the self-segregation, and then layer on top of that the lines that have been drawn, basically the true general election contest is during the primary contest. So many of these state legislative districts, so many of the congressional districts, the winner is going to be determined when we know the election results tomorrow night as opposed to November.
You can't underscore the importance of the primary enough.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm just going to wait to the midterms. I'm going to wait to November. So much of that is determined in those primaries.
If you wait, you miss all the
You
action.
lose out,
You
exactly.
lose out. All right. Professor Bitzer, as always, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking to him as well on Wednesday morning, the morning after,
Yes.
to see how things panned out.
All right, time for us to take a quick break. Thanks for staying with us this morning here on WCNC Plus. At the top of the hour, our Jane Monreal takes over from our live Impact studio. Again, continue streaming live here on WCNC Plus.